I'm Colin Green and you are listening to Spikepit. What is D&D O5R? Well, you may well ask. You may just be sat there thinking, what are you on about Spikepit D&D O5R? Or you may be one of the enlightened, a bunch of people that have got their own ideas of what it means. Perhaps you're one of these designers that's had a go at dreaming up a set of rules that perhaps meet this definition. Recently, I've put out a few videos talking about things like old school essentials, basic D&D, 5th edition, what is Dungeons and Dragons. And in the course of talking about these games, it's this game really, and that's my point. It's all D&D, as far as I'm concerned. It's all D&D, but there's no doubt about it. We've got our own preferred sort of flavours, if you like, for the game. And I'm thinking that O5R is potentially a useful label for communicating this idea of taking something like the current edition, which is 5th for Dungeons and Dragons, and combining it with some of the ideas, or like my favourite or most useful perhaps design ideas or mechanisms from older versions of the game. I've talked about it before in my podcast, Spikepit RPG podcast. I think what I'm talking about is this idea that someone returning to the hobby who perhaps played back in the day may stumble across 5th edition and find things that they like. You've got this universal mechanism that runs through 5th edition that is, a lot of people don't like it. It's a little bit contentious, but the idea of this elegant mechanism. But there's a bunch of stuff in the old games, that procedural ideas that work really well. And if you're perhaps new to the game, or you want to run something that doesn't need a whole lot of preparation, there's procedures that I quite enjoy and is useful to a dungeon master or people running any sort of fantasy adventure game really. You see other designs that grab onto these procedures, and by that I'm talking about things like the way you have a structure for time and space, distance, daily procedures for wilderness travel, these ideas of dungeon crawls and hex crawls, and there's loads of procedural stuff, even down to the way Highlands and retainers are used in the game. So if we take some of the stuff we really like and we put it with the current edition, what then do you call that? Well, O5R, it strikes me, is fairly representative of what's going on. So that's what I want to go with. I toyed with the idea of just, is this really just basic D&D? Is it still just basic D&D? And I wasn't sold on that idea, because you can get a free copy of the basic rules from Wizards of the Coast as a download from their website. I would urge you to do that if this is something you're interested in, and that's what I've done. Then I am just going to go through it, take out the things that I found that didn't really stick, didn't really chime with my idea of what my D&D is like. So I'll take that out, and then all the things that I think, oh, what's happened to that? I quite missed that, or I like that, I'll just add in. For this, I'm going to be using mostly old school essentials from Gavin Norman, because it's fairly stripped down and clear and concise. That makes it easy to port across. So the O is old, 5, that's the addition. And then, do you know what? I'm actually quite happy with the fact that nobody knows what the R means. You make up your own definition for the R. That can be your constantly evolving, constantly creative in-joke. I'm going to be recording videos, following along with this process, take a bit more of a deep dive into what I'm actually doing. But what I can tell you is I'm starting off at chapter 7, looking at using ability scores. I'm taking a variant rule from the Dungeon Master's Guide, adding that to 5e basic, and that's where I'm kicking it off. This discussion will be going on the podcast, and if you'd like to make a call in or you prefer to consume your media via podcast, this project will be represented over there on the Spikepit RPG podcast. I hope you'll drop in and take a listen. If you find this interesting or you've got something you'd like to add, you can leave a note in the comments. If you want to encourage me to follow this up and do some more, please like and subscribe to the videos. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you later. What is OSR? What is OSE? What is D&D? It's quite amusing.